Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having an awesome day. Many of you probably know that Vladimir Kramnik has retired from classical chess. I know it's a bit late to be making this video, but I'm going to do it anyway. So for those of you who are unaware, Kramnik announced his retirement from classical chess right after the Tata Steel tournament last month. And it's kind of sad to see him go the way he did, as he didn't perform well in his last tournament. Hence, I'm going to show you one of his better games. This game is played between Kramnik, of course, and Kasparov in their World Championship match in 2000. Kasparov was the heavy favorite in this match, but we all know what happened. Kramnik surprised everyone and managed to come out on top. In fact, he's one of the few players to have a positive score against Kasparov in classical chess. Kramnik had white in this game, and he opened with d4. Kasparov responded with knight f6. Kramnik played c4, e6 from Kasparov, knight c3, and bishop b4. Kasparov goes for the Nimzo Indian defense. So Kramnik plays e3, Kasparov castles, so we have bishop d3, d5, knight f3, c5, white castles. This has been played many times before. So now Kasparov took on d4, going for an isolated queen's pawn position. So this e takes d4 capture is kind of forced, because if white goes knight takes d4, then black will go bishop takes c3, and this destroys white's structure. In fact, this would be slightly better for black. So after c takes d4, Kramnik goes e takes d4, d takes c4 played by Kasparov, bishop takes c4, and now we have this typical isolated queen pawn for white. The game continues as expected. Both sides develop their pieces. b6, bishop g5, bishop b7, rook to e1, bring the rook to the open file, knight b to d7, rook to c1, rook c8, and here Kramnik plays queen to b3, hitting the bishop and also putting more pressure on e6, hinting at some possible sacrifice in the future. Kasparov drops his bishop back, bishop to e7. This has all been played before actually, so Kramnik now plays the move bishop takes f6. Now if white tries to sacrifice on e6 immediately with bishop takes e6, this wouldn't work because now black can play rook to f7 to defend this hanging bishop. If white tries knight e5, then black can just take the knight and play knight h5, and black is up a piece. So in this position, Kramnik first captured the knight, and the reason he did this is to free up the g5 square for the knight in some lines. So Kasparov could have also played bishop takes f6 to avoid any potential sacrifices on e6, since the bishop is no longer hanging on e7. But this kind of prevents black's queen from entering over on the king side. And perhaps Kasparov wanted the option of putting his dark square bishop on d6, which is a much more active square compared to f6. So that is why Kasparov probably captured with the knight. But this does give white the option of taking on e6, which Kramnik does. And Kramnik is actually following a game played in 1994 between Hazai and Danielson, two players rated in the 2400s. I'm guessing Kasparov probably didn't know that game, and he went f takes e6 in this position, playing right into Kramnik's hands. The best move for black is to actually ignore the bishop and play rook to c7, protecting the bishop on e7. And after white retreats, then you can play bishop takes f3, messing up white's structure, bishop d6, where black has good compensation for the pawn with moves like knight h5, and queen h4. Black definitely is doing okay. But here Kasparov instead captured on e6. We have queen takes e6 check, king to h8, So if rook to f7, then knight g5 gives white a serious advantage. So here king h8, Kramnik took on e7, bishop takes f3, g takes f3, queen takes d4. Black is only down a pawn, but his position is incredibly difficult to play. He has issues with his back rank, and Kramnik's next move, knight to b5, forces Kasparov to defend very accurately. This is very difficult to do over the board. It's clear that the knight is now heading to f7. And black could have issues along this diagonal as well. So in the game between Hazai and Danielson, Danielson played queen to f4. And this was the continuation in the game. Now black decided to give up the exchange. And white went on to win this game quite comfortably. So after knight to b5, the computer gives the best move as queen to d3. This is the line given by the computer. Knight f7 check, king g8, knight to e5, hitting the queen and also threatening queen e6, king a8, then knight f7. So here black would have to play queen to f5. But then rook c7, threatening mate on g7, the computer thinks that black is still surviving, but white gets too much activity and this is very unpleasant to play. So after knight to b5, Kasparov actually plays queen takes b2, but this move unfortunately didn't put up too much resistance. Here Kramnik took on c8, and then he played knight to d6, attacking the rook and also preparing knight f7. Now the knight lands on this crucial square and we have king g8, queen to e6, looking very dangerous, and black is in big trouble. Kasparov played on for a bit, he played rook f8. Now knight d8 check, king to h8, queen to e7, and in this position Kasparov resigned. The rook has no squares to go to. Kasparov would probably have to give up the exchange. And this should be winning for Kramnik. So here if rook over to e8, then there are some background issues and this is going to be mate. And if rook g8, knight f7 is a very nice moderate mate. So I hope you enjoyed this wonderful game from Vladimir Kramnik. Do let me know if you would like to see more games from the 14th World Chess Champion. Thanks for watching.